Welcome to this discussion on meditation. I'm here again with Susan Gunner. I'm Cadell Last, and we are going to be diving in to the nature of meditation, the types of transformations that can happen to our consciousness when we meditate, the type of states of consciousness we can reach through meditation, and the possible benefits or the positive uses of meditation for our daily lives in the world. So to start, Susan, do you want to introduce yourself and the meditation challenge?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. Great to see you all again. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. It's great to have this conversation once again, as we are just about to launch the 21-day meditation challenge. So also we want to welcome you to that. Later on, we'll go into a little bit more and explain what does it entail. And this is going to be over a private Facebook group where we're going to take everyone through a 21-day consistent meditation challenge daily. So it's going to be amazing. We already had hundreds of like people wanting to join this group. Like the interest was overwhelming. So firstly, if you're listening and if you're in the group, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And I am a holistic therapist. What I do is I coach for London Real. That's one of the roles that I have, and I've been working with London Real for a long time now, almost 3 years. And on my own journey, I have done a lot of work within my own, within people that were interested in what I do, based on the tools that I have used myself for the self-development and self-awareness purposes. So my interest to meditation kicked around about 3 years ago when I joined the London Real's first ever course, and we were asked to do this meditation challenge in a group, and I've never done that before. And I was completely I had so much misconceptions, and I was like a bit woo-woo, not for me. Like I always found excuses not to do this. And when I did it with the group of people, I realized that those subtle changes started to develop, and the domino, I started to see the domino effect after a few months, which I never expected. And I thought, this is incredible. And ever since I went into more to the research part and the benefits, and I tried many different types of meditation to find out and explore what works really for me and what I love the most. And that's how my meditation journey started. So, and with the work I do, I facilitate people's meditation journey. I know it sounds crazy because like most people are really, really pro meditators. I mean, some people I know are so credible in this experience. They meditate, like for example, Cadell, you meditate for such long hours. But then we have other group of people where they shy away from meditation, only because of the misconceptions, and only because they imagine it to be, there's many, but just the most common one is that they imagine it to be something that's out there, and they need to reach, and they need to grasp it, and they see it as a big chore. It's like it's difficult, and it's going to be painful.
Which I was just going to say is kind of the opposite motion of what meditation kind of actually is, and kind of like applying the normal operations of our consciousness to meditation is kind of leads to that paradox. So maybe if you could start by telling people in your view what is meditation in its simplest essence, or what if you were describing meditation to a 5-year-old, like how would you do that?
I tend to stick to just sit down with yourself and breathe. Just breathe. So I think this is simple enough for anyone to really understand what it entails. So like I said, I think it's easy to say what it isn't, such as don't control your thoughts, don't try to calm your mind, or things like you know, you don't have to have even the guided meditations. They're beautiful, right? They're really, really, really beneficial for people, especially with the attention disorder. But this, in the simplest form, meditation is literally sitting down with yourself and just focusing on your breath and bringing your attention back to your breath. This is the one that I practice. This is the one that I find hugely beneficial.
Okay. So, I mean, I think that's a really helpful definition for me, because in my early stages of starting to meditate, and even up till now, when I've been doing it for more seriously for a year and a half or 2 years now, is that I find just coming to my breath and just focusing on my breath and bringing my consciousness and awareness to my breath is the easiest doorway, or the easiest passageway to feeling comfortable sitting with myself and just feeling a very positive, feeling a very even euphoric dimension of myself, which is usually kind of at a distance, or usually kind of different than my normal consciousness. And of course, we could get more complex into the different routes, the different doorways that meditation might open up. But I think, yeah, just being with the breath is a nice place to start for people.
Yeah, I mean, just again, simply like you said, we can really go into it more, but simply you can just, it's about just having that awareness of the now. I mean, a lot of the spiritual leaders and spiritual teachers, they say meditation is just becoming aware of the now, the present moment. But that also can be very difficult for someone who's never really had the experience of being present, right? Because, you know, some of us, we live in chaotic lives with so much distraction. So I think going forward, just sitting down by yourself and focusing on the breath is the way forward. Definitely.
Okay. So I guess the next question that comes to mind, if we're just focusing on meditation, is being with the breath and cultivating a sense of the now and cultivating a presence with ourself and with our consciousness, is what types of things can people expect to happen to their self, like their normal self-consciousness or their day-to-day consciousness, when they start meditating? What, like when you sit down with yourself for 5-10 minutes and just focus on your breath, and you do that for, say, this 21-day challenge, what types of things can people expect to happen to their consciousness?
I think based on my experience and based on the people that I've talked to and seen their experiences and what really happens. I mean, ultimately the goal is one of my favorite words, the operative word, is self-agency. I heard this from Danielle Laporte many years ago, and I loved it. She uses this a lot. She uses it a lot in the self-development space, but I use this for the meditation alone, because ultimately what we want is self-agency. Give the power back to the individual people to have that control over their lives. So that's the goal. But immediately, the first immediate benefit would be calmness. It would be literally controlling anxiety if they have any anxious tendencies. I mean, mental health is a huge topic that we can discuss, but probably we're going to need lots of time for that. But based on the research, based on so many studies that have been done on these people with depression, people with mental health, meditation happens to be the only tool that people respond so well to. It's the only one, it's the most powerful one. And so what can they experience? They would feel really calm in the beginning. Again, it's like the Simon Sinek's brushing your teeth example. He says, when you brush your teeth every day, you don't expect your teeth to look healthy in one day. The first rushing. It's the same thing. It's just the same thing, like going to the gym. Just because you go to the gym one day, you don't expect to have, you don't expect to see the results. So same thing with meditation. It's very, very slow process, but it's a very powerful process. So you just need to cultivate that daily. It's about the consistency and the discipline. I think anyone who has the courage or the discipline will experience huge benefits from becoming more aware, because it expands the awareness. That's my favorite one. I mean, I've been meditating for other health benefits, biological, but what I love about the meditation is the expansion of the awareness and having more aware of my thoughts, my actions, and really observing myself. Because after a while, it becomes like a game, right? It becomes like a game. So that's the ultimate goal. And then you realize, wow, okay, you see yourself in a total different mirror, and you think, now I see you.
I think the metaphor of either the if you haven't if you haven't brushed your teeth in a while on your teeth, or if you haven't got, probably more people could relate to, if you haven't been to the gym in months or ever, and you start working out, and it's going to feel really sore at first when I remember after your first workout, after never having gone to the gym in a while, your muscles are really sore and it can be quite painful the next day. And I think, at least for my experience, when for the person who's a beginner and just sitting down with their breath for the first time, I at least for my experience, it's going to be a while potentially before they experience a calmness or a stillness or a presence with themselves. Probably, I mean, it could vary depending on, your mental health or your state of whatever it is you're struggling with, if you're going through a difficult time. But I think that for my first experiences, you can experience a lot of, one of the biggest hurdles is patience. Like you can lack, because your mind is jumping all over the place. So your mind's I think that's the most common thing I hear from people is, my mind's jumping all over the place. My mind's rushing 100 miles an hour nonstop, and I can't slow down. I can't bring it in. So I feel like when people, and I feel like this is a big hurdle for a lot of people, you might call it the ego starts to go nuts. But, when you sit down with yourself, you're trying to be still maybe for the first time, and trying to be still with yourself for a prolonged period for the first time maybe ever. And, your mind's like running, jumping all over the place. And so I feel like with this 21-day challenge, maybe it's like, that's going to be like the first 5 or 10 days for some people, I think, is just getting through that insanity.
Yeah, maybe even longer.
Maybe even
Seriously.
longer.
Yeah, depends how much you want this as well, because you're gonna want to do this, right? Like everything else, meditation
Totally.
is not something that you do 1-2 days or a few months and then you master it. It's not like that. It's ever evolving, ever expanding. It gets deeper and deeper. It's infinite. There is no end. There is no place you arrive with a meditation. It's just like this is just like self-inquiry. How much do we know about ourselves? It's the same thing. It's just infinite. So I think the main thing that's going to be the commitment. I think if we can get ourselves on the floor for 20 minutes a day consistently for 21 days, I think something will shift. By the end, something will change, something will shift. It will get easier. And then that's the 21. Why 21 days? Because that's like the threshold. It's easy to just do 1 week challenge or meditation, because anyone can get through a week. But when it's 3 weeks, mentally, physically, you're just like screaming, like, you don't want to carry on anymore. Your body is doing everything possible, give you the pains and aches, and I don't want to break you out of the meditation. But if you keep going and cross that threshold, that's where the actual meditation practice begins. So the 21 days is just going to be just the dipping your toes in, having the discipline, and sitting yourself down and having that commitment. So that's all. That's it, really.
So in the shift, you're trying, like what you seem to be articulating is that, when you do put in the persistence, when you do put in the the concentration, and you have the desire to sit with yourself and be with yourself, that there is a type of threshold that you approach, or there is a type of transformation you approach. And some people I've heard describe it as a, like a moment, where they really have a breakthrough in their capacity to sit with theirself and be with theirself. Do you have any personal views or understandings about the nature of this transformation, what's going on inside oneself during what someone may experience on day 1 versus day 21? Maybe it's more gradual.
Yeah, it is definitely gradual, and I can only speak for my own experience. And I tell you, the biggest breakthrough comes when you begin to accept to sit down with yourself, because facing ourselves, being with ourselves, is like the most difficult thing we can do in the world. This life, we have been engineered. Look at our lives, the way we live, the way we work, the way our relationships. We have everything set up so that we don't get to spend time with ourselves. And a lot of people will have more than one breakthroughs in this 21-day challenge. It could be gradual. For some, they might not feel. For some, it could be just one moment, like you said. For me, I think the more I, paid attention to my breath, and the more I took it as a discipline, a ritual that it was non-negotiable, and I had to do it, and I would just sit down with myself, then I realized the more I did that, the more the self-acceptance begins, the awareness expands. Yes, there will be some emotions flooding in, there will be some things that come up, but just keep going. Our job is not to allow those emotions or things, because it will come up. And because it's such an individual experience, it's very hard to say who would experience what, or how would they explore this tool. But I think they will know what to do. So I always say, you know what to do. You'll have a journal by your side, things will come up.
And do you feel like either is it difficult for everybody to sit with themselves at first, and if you think that is the case, that it's difficult for most people to sit with themselves, is there a why as to why it's so hard for us to sit with ourselves? I always spontaneously go to the idea that our consciousness is by default filtered through senses which are outward facing. So it's sort of like we become so normalized to connecting our consciousness with that outward facingness that, when we shut our eyes and we turn our consciousness inwards, it's just so uncomfortable. It's so we're not used to it. Basically, we're not, it's just so new,
It is. It absolutely is. I like your description on that. But also, if we were to go deeper on this, I think most of us, because we live that way and we don't face the things, we tend to suppress a lot of things and carry all this package, with us. I think meditation at the beginning, especially, what it does, it just brings everything to surface for you to deal with. I think a lot of people do not stick with it because of this. Mainly, this is very common, because they feel so uncomfortable, because emotions are arising, they don't know what to do with it. And if they haven't got someone to hold space, or that's why this group is going to be incredible, because there's going to be people going through the same experience and be able to share it. I think as humans, we're wired to unite in this way, and unite in an experience, that same experience, and really share. That will take off the edge. That would help people to really come together and support each other. And also that would help everyone to keep going. Because when you see your, other members doing it and they keep going, it inspires you, right? And then you can, okay, maybe I can go on, maybe I can go on. And it's always harder when you do this on your own. And because you don't understand, and especially for beginners, right? They
It's
want
kind of,
someone to
yeah.
explain, like they want explanation. I'm feeling this way. What is this? This is happening. What is this? But ultimately, the answers are inside of you, right? You're going to have to go through it and learn. You will be.
Well, that's the paradoxical thing with, like, you know, maybe with self-development in general, but maybe with meditation in particular, is that, you know, even though you can, you know, form a group, or you can go to a, you know, a collective meditation session, or you can, you know, join a group like the one that we're going to be starting up. But in the end, it's you with you, right? It's you with the alone, and you're just going through it, you know, with and by yourself. So
Yeah.
in that sense, that it, you know, like you keep saying, it does take courage to get the ball rolling and to get it started. But at the same time, you know, from my discussions, previous discussions with you, and knowing sort of what motivated you in meditation, I know you more and more say that you think meditation is going to become mainstream, and you think meditation is going to become, you know, a very important tool moving into the future, basically because, you know, the society is getting so much more complex, and our lives are getting so much more complex, and meditation is kind of a counterweight to that process. So could you go into a little more detail about why you think now, other than the COVID-19 outbreak, is why do you think now meditation is becoming a popular and even a necessary tool for us to explore?
Mm-hmm. Interesting enough, I had a conversation with one of my friends who's in the spiritual and plant medicine, and she's in the shamanic, part of the world space. And we had a talk, and she said, that's because we're losing our ways, because we are destroying the earth. We are not respecting life. We are living a life of me, wanting everything and not caring. And I love what she said, that back in the day, you know, having a meal was a luxury, and you don't get that every day. It was like once a month or once in 2 weeks. Now you can literally walk into any market, any supermarket, and grab yourself any type of meat. And she said, we don't respect our animals, we don't respect life on earth. And this COVID-19 is here to teach us a lesson, so that we can be locked up in our homes and turn inwards until we learn the lesson. And you know, she said, it's not going to go away anytime soon. It needs to teach us that lesson and listen to ourselves, you know, because the wisdom is within us. And what happens in the West is that, I mean, the momentum of, you know, the life that we know in the West, the momentum, you know, like look at the fires in Australia, look at all this stuff that was happening. And people are screaming about the climate change every day. It's very hard. I mean, we don't feel it in our bones that this change is happening, and we're destroying the earth, and we're not respecting the life on earth. And something like that had to happen, like COVID, to lock us out in our homes, so we can really think through, and what is it that is important for us? What are our values? What happened to our values? What's in the core of being, you know, as a human being? What is important than accumulating and looking for, you know, satisfaction outside, externally? So I think this is going to teach us a lot of lesson, and I have a feeling that life is not going to be the same after the COVID-19. And it's not going to go anytime soon until we collectively learn and collectively respect planet, each other. And I believe this as well, that, and the reason meditation is very powerful is because it's for me, is the number one tool that can really counteract all of our distraction and all of this external seeking that we're out to get. So that's why meditation will go mainstream, because it's the only way we're going to calm, rethink our values, reflect, and come up with better way of living and being, right? So
I think
yeah,
if the foundation of the culture needs to change, it's best to change the foundation of the culture from a foundation that's conscious, and from a foundation that's connected with our what we are, basically our natural capacity to have a conscious awareness, and our ability to reflect on what it is we're doing. And it sounds like from your view, the big thing is, we have a culture of distraction. We have a culture that's very unconscious.
yeah,
And
yeah.
And meditation might be becoming more useful for that reason. I know for me, I could say that I feel like I'm a product of a culture that is very focused on the intellect, and very focused on thought and the mind, but maybe not as focused on the nature of consciousness and cultivating an understanding of what is the nature of consciousness. So for me, I feel like meditation offers that doorway, or offers that potential. But that's, I feel like that's only one of the many different benefits that meditation can offer us. Maybe you could go into a little more detail about how you feel meditation can benefit the average person, because I know there's some people that might get intimidated by, oh, I can only meditate if I'm going towards enlightenment or some spiritual transcendence, but just the person who's just how is meditation for me, or this type of thing.
Yeah, yeah. This is like the biggest misconception. People, that's why it's going to go mainstream. I'll tell you why. Because in the past, this was the path a seeker would take for enlightenment. And meditation was for them, right? The monks, the temples, the shrines and ashrams, But now, uh, you know, for some reason, we love it when science steps in, and when they do these fancy studies, and they have these machines and the electronic devices where they can measure your heart brain coherence and your body and internal state and homeostasis and so on. I think we love this because we want everything to make sense. And in the West now, scientists stepped into this. And one of the biggest influences that I know of is Joe Dispenza. And heart math, they have these little devices that you can put on yourself through your meditations, and literally measures your coherence, your brain waves, and how calm you are, and in your internal state and your breathing. These are great news, because these are for those skeptics that are always wanting solid proofs and so on. That's why now science is doing so much study that they are proving that meditation can really help us through anything. There is nothing out there that meditation cannot help us with, from mental health to diseases, even cancer patients. Joe Dispenza has some huge database of people healing from cancer and all kinds of diseases, honestly. And also he has data on how the brain waves are changing through the meditation. And I also know a couple of doctors, like neuroscientists, they're into this space where they take a group of emotionally traumatized people, childhood trauma survivors, and then they put them on a program of meditation for a long period of time. And the transformation is incredible. So there are so many studies out there now that anyone can Google and find out, especially, like I said, those skeptics. But in the East, they don't need a scientist to tell them. This is the tradition, they know this is the way forward. And some of us are lucky enough. I'm one of those generations that I seen a little glimpse of what that life looks like in the nature, connected, there's prayers, there's meditations, rituals, right? I love that. I didn't appreciate it when I was younger, but now thinking back, wow, I am probably the last generation to really witness that and take it and carry it forward. For that reason, like you said, this is going to be mainstream, because now, with the technology improving, science stepping in, and people are stepping up, like Joe Dispenza, leaders out there who really promoting and really having these retreats to let the world know that this is it, this is where we are, and meditation is your tool.
Well, I think for a lot of modern people, science is the authority or the system of knowledge that they trust and that they put their faith in some sense. That, you know, if a phenomena has passed through the scientific method and with a positive result, then it's something we can trust. And whereas, you know, there's probably a lot of people who would see, you know, maybe if that same practice didn't come out on the side of the scientific method, that they would see it as less reliable, or there'd be more uncertainty, or there'd be more reason for skepticism. So I do think now that science has stepped in and provided some evidence for it, it's going to be more appealing to a certain type of mind. And at the same time, for me, I personally haven't really, even though I've come across some popular articles about, you know, scientific studies on meditation, I haven't really gone into it super deeply, and I can just sort of see, you know, the benefits in myself from my own self analysis. So, you know, it kind of really brings these two worlds together of the, you know, the objective external view, where we have the data that supports a universal and we have, you know, the self and just going into yourself and the pure subjective dimension. So it's really interesting that these two worlds sort of collide here, and it kind of, it also brings, like you've been saying, you know, these two worlds, it brings sort of like the East and the West, these two big cultures together as well. So that just makes it a little more interesting in that sense.
It's like emerging. It's more like emerging, like these two ways emerging for me. I mean, also, if you look at the last decade, spirituality is like gone off the roof. I mean, the amount of people have been on the spiritual journey trying to find out what this existence is all about. It's incredible. So we have that as well. We have so many more people being interested. That helps. Like you said, science helps. That's fine. If that's going to take what it's going to take for people to meditate, that's fine. But with the meditation that I practice, is what I love about it is that, for example, like for mantra meditations and some transcendental meditation, it might feel like a chore, like you've got to go somewhere, you've got to really make an effort to go out there, and it's expensive as well. You've got to really think about those costs, because, you know, that as well. And but the meditation that I am always talking about is practiced in your own home, in the comfort of your home. Yeah, right. You don't need anybody. You don't need to create these mantras. You can do, if you want to pray. If you want to say mantra, if you want to listen to music, do what
your message is. It's very simple.
Yeah, the most simplistic way of meditating. Just, you can, customize if you want. That's fine. But if you don't want to face yourself, customize it. Take the music part. You know, start doing all the vivid stuff. But initially, what I would love people to do is just take it simply, just sitting down and breathing, so they can go through the process, you know, in a real way.
So then let's jump in finally onto the meditation challenge itself. So you set up, you know, we're going to both be doing this. You set up this meditation challenge, 21 days. It's an interesting time, COVID-19 outbreak. Everyone's on social isolation. Mm-hmm. You know, what's your vision for the meditation challenge? What is the 21 days going to look like? How are they going to be able to engage with you and this type of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I'm so glad that we can now, for once, put the use of social media in a good use, you know. For once, we can actually use social media to connect. And if the isolation carries on for another few months, you can imagine how people can literally go crazy in their own homes, because we're not fit for this type of living. And especially the ones in the cities are in trouble, because some of them live in tiny box flats. you know. And so that's the reason behind creating the group and really bringing this challenge to everyone's home. I believe that if we can become, you know, if we can have that self-agency, I love this word, then everyone can empower themselves without getting overwhelmed. And finally, maybe we can let go of the fear. Finally, then we can figure out another new way of living and still connecting. So, and I read somewhere, I can't remember the source where I read it, but there was a saying that I loved. It said, the lone wolf times are over, time to unite collectively. It's kind of true, because if you look in the past, a lot of people always seeked for a guru, some leader to show them the way, a teacher, which is fine. You know, I love all of that. I mean, I love listening to all the spiritual teachers as well and their insights. But we rely too much on the outside sources. So this meditation challenge is, the hope is that everybody will take it, do the work, and become self-empowered, so that when the time comes that we step out again, people feel more mentally stronger and they're no longer in fear. This is the goal of this group.
I like especially your emphasis on everyone. The goal of the group and the challenge is to sort of build the tools and build the self-understanding where you become your own guru type of thing, because it is true that these different spiritual practices, they always tend to get concentrated in their nature around a guru type figure. And then like the words of it's like another, I think, paradox is that the words of the guru become more important than the meditation itself, which is again taking you external to yourself instead of internal to yourself, and it's putting you dependent on someone else instead of, you know, cultivating a self-understanding. Yeah, I always find that paradox emerges in these circles. So yeah, I mean, I like the fact that you're emphasizing that, and it feels like if we were ever to come together more collectively, like out beyond sort of a synthesis of the individualist culture and like the traditional collectivist culture, it would have to be in a world where everyone's kind of their own guru, right? Like it would only work if everyone was bringing their consciousness to the table, you know, bringing their consciousness fully. It couldn't work otherwise. Otherwise, it's too dependent on, you know, systems of rules which are unconscious.
Well, this is where we are. That's exactly what's been happening, and this is the result. So now we need to figure out a new way of doing things. And you're right. Everybody needs to bring their consciousness to the table, but respect, live together, unite at the same time. Instead of, like you said, instead of really giving into the you know, someone else's. Look, I have so much respect for those spiritual gurus. Don't get me wrong. I have huge respect. But it's just that going forward in such a domesticated Western way of life, we need a new way of living, and that's where this meditation comes in.
Well, I think it's an inviting and tempting invitation. Obviously, I'm biased since I've jumped in, but is there anything else you would want to leave for a listener who's either on the fence with meditation, someone who's maybe always been skeptical about it, and you know, why should I spend the next 21 days with you in silence?
Yes, absolutely. I would say only because I've been there myself. I know what it's like to live in the West. I know what it's like to have, you know, so much things going on all at once. This is not going to add to your life. This practice is not going to be another chore to add on to your busy schedule daily, especially now. People are working from home and doing millions of things now, probably from home, cooking and looking after children and probably the whole family, you know. It is not going to be asking for more of their time. It's going to give you the inner peace, the calmness, so that you can cope with what's going on. And when I say it's not going to be the chore, it is not going to be like something that's going to need effort. Because if we can literally meditate imagine you're at home and you had a nice, lovely dinner with your family. At the end of the dinner, you can literally stop and appreciate the food. Close your eyes for 5 minutes and really go inwards and start being present and putting your attention to your breath and lovely food and what you shared with your family. That's a meditation. So it doesn't need to be complicated. It doesn't need special costumes. It doesn't need. So we're going to bring forward a new way
Although
of meditation.
I do like a special costume now and then. I'm biased towards. Can be.
Look.
Doesn't have to be. Can have a special costume if you like.
Doesn't have to. You can customize it if you like. You can wear the crystals. Okay, wear the crystals, burn the sage, right? But ultimately, what we're trying to do here is give you a solid, give the people a solid tool where they can retreat into any time. You're in control. You don't have to wait.
Consciousness for the people. You don't have
to go anywhere. Yes.
Consciousness for the people.
I think so.
Okay.
The more we can become conscious, the more we can become better human, a better world, better planet, right?
I have to say that since meditation, gradually incorporating meditation into a part of my life, for me personally, it has really helped me calm my overactive mind, and it has helped me to become conscious of my body energies. And it has helped me to sort of reorganize the attention and reorganize the way in which I understand my body energies. And like you've already said, really helped me to more, and it's always a process ongoing, but has really helped me more to accept, myself, as opposed to running from myself. So, I think I'm not only excited for this challenge, but mostly excited to see the types of people who join and the feedback that we get in 21 days. So thank you for this conversation.
You're welcome. Just want to say one last thing.
Yeah, say one last thing. Yeah.
Okay. The whole taking command of our mind is a crazy mission, right? Because it's never possible, right? The mind is mine. To take
I agree with that.
Yeah. So I don't want to give too much hopes to people of like, if I do this 21 days, magic wand, oh my God, all my problems will disappear and I'll become a very calm, a spiritual light being. No, because listen, it's an ongoing battle, and there's going to be times, these feelings going to creep up and creep in. That's fine, you're just gonna just go to your room, go somewhere quiet and sit down and do your breathing and your meditation. So this is a tool to really help you get you out of that as well, So
I think there's only one magic wand that will solve all of your problems, which is, I think, death. Then all the problems are gone away.
Well, that's a whole nother conversation.
That's a whole other conversation. Yeah. But for sure, definitely not a magic wand to like control your mind and stuff like that. It's more to accept yourself.
Accept everything as is, accept all of yourself, accept everything that's happening, coming up, and your reactions and your feelings and your thinking. Just your being, accept, and this is the tool going forward. So thank you so much for the conversation. Thank you for having me. As always, it's a pleasure. And really looking forward to this 21-day meditation challenge. Guys, if you're missing out, if you're not joining, because we're going to have so many exciting lives and live calls, and we might even meditate online, live videos. So to encourage.
With some stage.
And hold space. Space for everyone who's struggling. So that's going to be awesome. Great. Thank you. Thanks. See you soon. Looking forward to the next conversation. Bye, everyone.